This is our main mast. Garrett finished our mizzen the day before.
Looks so pretty, Garrett.
Yeah, just one coat of peak oil.
The mizzen is 30 feet long, and both spars were cut down in episode 14 from a neighbor's property in Washington. They're both Douglas fir.
I'm gonna have to cut 5 feet off this one. I'm probably gonna cut it all off the base. Man, she stayed really nice and straight. Look at that. Beautiful.
Yeah, man, looks really good.
And I want this one to be 40 feet.
Our main mast is to be 40 feet in length. Garrett measured back to the diameter we want at the top, 3.5 inches, and cut off the excess.
Oh, it's so dull. That'll do.
Then measuring out the 40 feet we need, that left just over about 4.5 inches to remove from the base, leaving us with 40 feet.
Got it?
Now what?
Or I can go in the back of the truck.
Okay. Alright, phase 1.
First, we use the planer to knock down all the knots. Then came the belt sander to get a majority of the surface smooth and round. The end there will later get shaped into a square peg to fit in the mast step atop the keel.
Oh, it's just that. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely overloading it.
After finding a new neighbor to borrow a different power strip, we were back at it.
Can't say we're not determined.
Or so we thought.
Sander's broke. Dad, sander doesn't work.
Did it work at all?
No. Maybe it's the outlet?
Yeah, try plugging in where mine is. being right behind me because that cuts out half the work.
Yeah, it's super easy.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to be working at the boatyard.
Of course, I forgot like the 2-minute interaction, and I wanted to ask him if he's got any, or if they've got any old props and cutlass bearings and stuffing boxes laying around they'd be willing to sell.
Turns out they do. We have a list of necessities before Red Aviva can see the water, and attaining a prop shaft.
I don't feel any wavering or resistance or anything.
Is on it, along with all the other engine gear we need to install the Wester Beastie.
Looks great.
Yeah, it's
I
got,
mean, not.
you know, it's got some wear, but it's
Oh,
Manel.
really, Swab? Do you agree?
You can tell it's Manel because it's silver, like stainless steel. It looks like stainless steel, but you can tell where it oxidizes green, like bronze.
Oh. And so, $50 for the shaft?
$50 for the shaft, $15 for the stern bearing, and $15 for the stuffing box. Whole setup for $80. Can't really beat that.
Yeah. Yeah, we were sort of expecting what, like 100 give or take for the shaft, and another 100 for each part, basically.
To pay at least $200 for a shaft, and then probably, you know, 100 something at least for a stuffing box and whatnot. So, but yeah, the boatyard definitely hooked it up.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Napa Valley Boatyard.
But more on that at a later date. Right now, the late October sun was perfect for finish sanding our main mast. Garrett followed behind me with the smaller orbital and lighter sandpaper to get her just right.
So a lot of people have been concerned about the checks in the masts. I can understand that it looks like it could be an issue, but I believe the strongest setup is the traditional rig hung on a tree just as it grew in nature, meaning leaving the sapwood on, a natural laminate of hard and soft. Sapwood does, however, check quite a bit, but it's really not an issue. The inherent strength of the tree itself is more than enough to handle it.
One of the other tasks while in the storage yard was to empty and clean out Red Aviva, which had become more of a storage unit than a boat, since we couldn't do any actual work on her until the marina had a spot on the working side for us. So where are we going to manage to put all this wood? This is when my folks regret having a daughter with a boat obsession.
Yeah, we got the whole boat clear again. So my parents are kind enough to let us sort of crash their place, and they're nice enough to let us have little piles of wood all over their property. So here's 2 of them, and then we've got one more behind the boat. That's probably the biggest one. And then we've got some more in their garage that we didn't want to leave out in the elements, and just wood everywhere. Yeah, they're really helping us out, so thanks, Mom and Dad. I'm pretty sure when I was growing up they never expected me to marry somebody like Garrett, let alone our life to be involved around boats, and traveling all over is the intention. And I'm pretty sure I gave them quite a fright when we left for Mexico on our very first boat together. We were 18 and just said, see ya. So I know my mom's really excited to have me back around for the time being. But anyway, here's the boat, or here's the wood. So we've got a couple boards of oak sitting on top, and then this one's kind of out of the bunch because it's got a little bit of rot, but they are packed high. So there's 2 piles. And they're all, Swab always loves when we get in here because he thinks that there's rats. or little mice. But here's the wood. We've got some really old growth redwood, actually from my parents' old hot tub here, that they didn't keep it full, so all the wood shrunk and then the bracing didn't fit anymore. So they just told us to remove it and we can have the lumber. And you can't get that stuff anymore, so that's pretty cool. And this stack is all the leftover rafter material. Swap! Swap, back up. And all this wood in here is pretty much the rafting material from that 1940s schoolhouse. Some of it went into planking. A couple pieces in there aren't actually Doug fir, they're Western red cedar, so we'll use that a lot in the interior because it smells amazing and it's really beautiful. And then further up here, all those thin pieces, that's all the cut off when we had to get our raw planking cut down. So they were, you know, full 2 inches or more, and that's a little bit too beefy for Red Aviva. She only needed about, I think the plans called for 1.25 inches, and I'm pretty sure that we went with 1.5 inches. So a lot of them are 1/2 inch to a little bit thicker cuts, which maybe we'll use for decking. That'd be cool. And then further up there, if I can get up to there. Further up there we have some of the leftover planking stock also that Garrett ripped into like 3-inch wide pieces that we were going to use for the decking. But because we decided to paint the deck sooner because it was going to take a really long time to plank it, and we decided to move forward instead, we've got all that on reserve.
And the last thing on our storage yard task list, which is ongoing, is by far the fun part.
Alright, let's see what's in this treasure chest, huh?
Hunting.
An actual treasure chest, look at that! Whoa!
Damn.
We're looking high and low in random garages and junkyards, on the internet and word of mouth for gear. Red Aviva needs everything, from engine fittings to rudder parts,
Man, I think it might be a little bit small, but
port lights and deck hardware, rigging and cushions. First and foremost, the bits we need before we can launch are prop shaft, stuffing box, and cutlass bearing, check. Props still need, and pintles and gudgeons.
Are these, gudgeons?
yeah.
And zincs too are still on the list. We even traveled to Newport Beach to check out minis. I was so excited I forgot to film. But we did find
Our new sexy windlass, which was sort of an impulse buy. But it was $295, and it's got sort of the Samson post built into it, and it's got the 2 gypsies, one for road, one for chain. Should be pretty sweet.
every piece will have a story. Meanwhile, the Napa Marina moved us to the working yard, past all the stored boats and through the gate that separates the 2 yards. With the launch ramp in sight, the beat goes on across the way. At the base of the 2 palm trees, we continue to build. Up next, Garrett digs out the caulking mallet and fulfills one of his lifelong dreams, driving cotton into a boat he built.
So you basically just want to work it into the seam.
We prime and pay the seams, closing her up, readying her for the finished paint.
I love strawberries.
Still one under your chin, Swab.